Hardwell has recently come out criticizing AI when it comes to AI music and AI music generators in general. I'm a huge fan of Hardwell, and in some ways, I agree with what he's saying, but in other ways, I don't. You can see right here, right away, AI can't come up with anything truly new. It's always four steps behind. And in some ways, I agree, in some ways, I disagree, right? Because you can see here, that he underlined his opinion that it is always necessary for human to be actively involved in the process of making music in order to generate genuinely new ideas. The great thing about electronic music is it's always pushing boundaries, and AI is always trying to catch up. AI can't come up with anything truly new, it's always doing what's already been done. I think that's one of the most important things when it comes to dance music, being forward thinking. AI can try to imitate being forward thinking or imitate it in general, but it's always four steps behind, right now at least. I don't know about the future, but at the moment it's still behind, which is a good thing for us DJs. It makes us more relevant. And then one last thing I want to point to, which is the last sentence in the article. A recent study found that workers in the music sector could lose up to 25% of their income to artificial intelligence within the next 4 years. Now, like I said in the intro, in some ways I agree with him, in some ways I disagree, because on one end, being honest, he is right. A lot of AI models, in case you didn't know, like Suno, Udio, etc., are really based on looking on, and have been kind of caught, looking at all this copyrighted work, all this kind of other music and stuff that's been made, and they try to replicate it, right? Now, I will say this. There are a lot of different ways that AI is being used, whether it's neural networks or other different programming techniques, way beyond the scope of this video, way more than I know, being honest, being super transparent on camera. And I think when it comes down to this, on one end, I think he is kind of right, that a lot of what AI is doing right now is imitating, right? Yes, it's making everything on its own. It's all original, the vocals, the lyrics, the melodies, the sound design. And yes, it is kind of copying or being more of a copycat of what already exists. And so in some ways, I kind of see what he's saying, right? I think it's a big thing in electronic music or music in general, but I feel like EDM, compared to almost any other genre I can think of, moves very fast. Because if you think of EDM, there's a lot of subgenres. House, dubstep, techno, glitch hop, movement on, the list goes on and on and on. And one thing that I've noticed, and this is kind of like a unique thing that kind of related to AI, but kind of not, is that when it comes to the EDM world, by the time a sample pack comes out about how to produce this type of music, it's already in the ethos of the EDM sphere, if I call it that. What I mean is, I remember when Rez started to blow up, doing kind of like mid-tempo, left field bass style music. I remember that a lot of people started making tutorials about how to make that Rez sound and all this kind of stuff. And then you start to see all these sample packs on Splice being like, hey, do you also want to make the Rez sound? But it's kind of like by that point, the Rez sound was so prevalent and so everywhere that a lot of people started to copy Rez. So this does happen a lot in the EDM world. And I think a big thing that I've seen with a lot of DJs that they try to do is figure out what's the next big thing. It's kind of like how Wayne Gretzky said, I don't see where the puck is, I see where the puck's going to be. Or I look at where the puck's going type mentality, be a few steps ahead. And so I know that right now, it seems like right now, at least at the exact time of this video, it seems like melodic techno seems to be the next big thing. It seems like that's what's kind of the EDM world is moving towards. Obviously, if you look back in the day, you had things like Star House being a huge thing. You had, of course, Slap House being a big one. You had then, even looking years back, Big Room. There's a huge Big Room phase that happened with EDM. Then if you look back in the 2010s, I would even say the Electro House era or Complextro as it was called. And then you also have things like Progressive House in that era as well, maybe 2015 or 16, which I love that Progressive House era. So there's been different phases, right? And now bringing this back to this article, it does make sense on one end where I agree with him that, yeah, AI just tries to follow what's already been done. Therefore, AI will always inevitably be behind if it's looking at what's already been done. But one thing I disagree with him on is that AI is getting smarter. I've heard some crazy, unique, creative songs that AI has made when it comes to Suno and Udio that I'm like, whoa, I would have never thought of this. And so on another end, I feel like as AI tools get better and as AI music generators get better and all this kind of stuff, I think they're going to be way better than us and way faster than us and way smarter than us to make all this crazy good music that has really nothing to do with what's been made. It's own unique thing. And I will say this, I've heard some crazily unique stuff with AI music generators that made me think, wow, I would have never thought of this. And you could argue, though, maybe on one end, you're like, all right, that's just some weird random stuff, but maybe it's also maybe a bit inspirational. Like maybe for me, I hear something that it's never been heard before, something that's super interesting. I'm like, what if I try to replicate this? What if this main concept, this AI generating software is going for, what if I try to take that same concept and put my own spin on it, right? So you could even argue that maybe this is good to push things forward. And then another thing you could argue when it comes to AI is, AI doesn't know where the EDM scene is going. This is, again, like a big thing I've noticed in the EDM scene, especially related to AI music, is the next big genre, and it's always going through waves. Maybe it will come full circle where Big Room House makes a comeback. I don't know. But I feel like there's always that like next specific subgenre that's going to be big into EDM. And right now it seems like maybe melodic techno. I think especially with what's going on with the Sphere in Las Vegas and all this kind of stuff. Like, I'm not sure, but it seems like to be melodic techno. Maybe AI could predict that maybe in the future. Like, hey, we know what the next big genre is going to be in EDM. So now we're going to try to make a bunch of songs for it. If actually you want to use Suno to create the next big song based off the data that AI has. Again, getting to a bit of Black Mirror-ish style thinking, but maybe not that far off. I don't know. No, great. Of course, this video is so much speculation. Another one of these like fireside chat style videos that I do, because every once in a while, I will say, especially regarding AI music, it is something where I see an article like this, and I'm like, man, that's an interesting thought. Like, is AI always going to be behind? I think right now it is, but in the future, could AI predict, just like in hockey, where I guarantee an AI, using much of mathematics and science, could predict where the puck's going to be? Could AI predict the human psychology of what the next genre in EDM is going to be that's going to blow up, and then make a bunch of songs based off that just hit the right point, and it's being ahead of the curve? Very possible, right? And then lastly, when you look at all of this, that last article, or the last sentence in that article, that, what was it? About 25% of income to artificial intelligence within the next 4 years when it comes to musicians. I think that's already happening. And I've talked about this in videos. I've done articles and article reviews like this, where there have been some filmmakers who said, yeah, I'm going to use AI now as opposed to hiring a human composer. So as opposed to, like, say, hiring like a Hans Zimmer type person to make a composition for your film, I'm just going to go to Suno and Udio and do it myself. It's easier, faster, cheaper, et cetera, et cetera. This is already happening, right? So the whole AI music debate is still going to be a hot topic, but I do think this is an interesting point that Hardwell made about the future of dance music and electronic music, the future of where it's going, and if AI is a good contributor to that, or is it just looking backwards, making a bunch of cookie cutter type stuff based off what's already been done, then kind of, gives it out. And Hardwell's saying, like, look, it's not that creative to think ahead, but I do agree with them as well, where it's like, I think we're getting to that point now. I'm very fine with different line. Like, there's been different barriers that have been crossed, right? Where now you can't really tell the difference between an AI song and a human song. Now we're getting to that point, and I think maybe the next barrier will be potentially in EDM, where I could say to AI, like, hey, what do you think the next big genre is going to be based off all this data? And in addition, based off that, can you make me a song? Can you make me a song that is going to be the song? Or could you make me a song that in 2 years will have the sound that EDM will have in 2 years? And like I said, like looking back 2 years ago, 2023, let's say to 2025, I think that sound that I'd go for would be melodic techno. And if, like, say, I started releasing melodic techno records 2 years ago, maybe you'd be way more ahead of the curve of the newer sound that's been evolving, as EDM's always evolving and always changing. Let me know what you think in the comments, though. Very interesting idea. Brings up, again, one of those very small articles, very quick article, but also brings up a lot of these concepts and ideas that I'm like, the future is here, and a lot of unique things are coming with it. And I think looking now at AI as a potential tool or not a tool to do future projections of where music's going to go, or EDM, whatever, really interesting.